It was a car accident. Nothing particularly remarkable, but fatal nonsense. You left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. The EMTs tried their best to save you, but to no avail. Your body was so utterly shattered you were better off. Trust me. And that's when we met. What happened? Where am I? You died. There was a truck, and it was skidding. Yes. I died. Yes. But don't feel bad about it. Everyone dies. And you look around. There was nothingness. Just you and me. What is this place? Is this the afterlife? More or less. Are you God? Yes. I'm God. My kids. My wife. What about them? Will they be all right? That's what I like to see. You just died and your main concern is your family. That's good stuff right there. You looked at me with fascination. To you, I didn't look like God. I just looked like some man. Some vague authority figure. More of a grammar school teacher than the Almighty. Don't worry. They'll be fine. Your kids will remember you as perfect in every way. They didn't have time to grow contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but will be secretly relieved. And to be fair, your marriage was falling apart. If it's any consolation. She feels very guilty for feeling relieved. Oh. So what happens now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something? Neither. You'll be reincarnated. So the Hindus were right. All the religions are right in their own way. Walk with me. And you followed along as we strolled into the void. Where are we going? Nowhere in particular. It's just nice to walk while we talk. So what's the point then? When I get reborn, I'll just be a blank slate, right? A baby? So all my experiences and everything I did in this life won't matter. Not so. You have within you all of the knowledge and experiences of all your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. I stopped walking and I took you by the shoulders. Your soul is more magnificent and beautiful and gigantic than you can possibly imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking your middle finger in a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put a tiny part of yourself into the vessel, and when you bring it back out, you've gained all of the experiences it had. You have been a human for the last 34 years, so you haven't stretched out yet and felt the rest of your immense consciousness. If we hung out here for longer, you'd start remembering everything. But there's no point to doing that between each life. How many times have I been reincarnated then? Oh, lots. Lots and lots. And into lots of different lives. This time around, you'll be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. Wait, what? You're sending me back in time? Well, I guess, technically, yes. Time as you know it. It only exists in your universe. Things are different where I come from. Where do you come from? I come from somewhere. Somewhere else. And there are others like me. I know you'll want to know what it's like there, but you honestly won't understand. Oh. But wait, if I get reincarnated to other places in time, could I have interacted with myself at one point? Yes. It happens all the time. And with both lives only aware of their own time span, you don't even know what's happening. So what's the point at all? You're asking me for the meaning of life. Isn't that a little stereotypical? Well, it's a reasonable question. And I looked into your eye. The meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe, is for you to mature. You mean mankind? You want us to mature? No, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life, you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect. Just me? What about everyone else? There is no one else. In this universe, there's just you and me. But all the people on Earth, all you. Different incarnations of you. Wait. I'm everyone? Now you're getting it. I'm every human who has ever lived. Or will ever live, yes. I'm Abraham Lincoln. And you're John Wilkes Booth, too. I'm Hitler. And you're the millions he killed. I'm Jesus. And you're everyone who followed him. Every time you victimized someone, you were victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment, every experience by any human was or will be experienced by you. Why? Why do all of this? Because someday you will become like me. Because that's what you are. You are one of my kind. You are my child. Wait. You mean I'm God? No. Not yet. You are a fetus. You are still growing. Once you've lived every human life throughout all of time, you will have grown enough to be born. So the whole universe, it's just an egg of sorts. Now it's time for you to move on to your next life. And with that, I sent you on your way. It started when we called out to the stars, into the darkness. We felt so small, tumbling through vast emptiness while clinging to the skin of the world, and without a single reason why. We were curious, yes, but ultimately I think that we were just terribly frightened. And we were young. So very young. We were children. And like a lonely lost child, we did the only thing that we could think to make it stop. We did what we thought we had to do to make the universe make sense. We called for help. For years, we scanned the skies for a sign. We sent signals to the stars in the darkness beyond. Are we alone? But the skies were quiet. Always so quiet, leaving us to our own markings. But crying children never cease, and neither did we. We sent calls into every corner of space for decade after decade, and we refused to believe no one was out there. They had to be. Yet, for some unknown reason, they never answered us. Everyone remembers when that changed. They think it responded to the Arecibo message from 1974. The response to the Arecibo message was received almost 3 months ago, in 2 separate parts. The first part of the message was received at the Hat Creek Radio Observatory in California. The Allen telescope array picked up what sounded like static interference that continued on for about an hour. It consisted of unintelligible screeching and buzzing sounds that continued without pause for the whole hour. The meaning of this message was never discovered, if it had one. The only thing that we knew was the signal's origin came somewhere in the Hercules constellation, near Messier 13. As soon as that signal stopped, the real message began. We made contact that day. and we were asking a question. Who is there? It came not through the radios, but as a voice. A voice inside all of our heads, asking the question to all of us. I heard it. My wife heard it. The young heard it and the old heard it. Even the deaf heard it. Everyone everywhere heard the voice whisper that question in their heads, in every language on earth. I remember it almost too clearly. It asked in that familiar, yet undiscernible voice that's always there in my mind. It was like one of my own thoughts had gone rogue and had decided to speak directly to me. The world seemed to stop as everyone listened for what came next.
Where are you?
The heavy question seemed to linger in our mind for hours and hours, and then for days, and then weeks. That day changed everything. There were the doubters from the very beginning, and the holy ones who claimed that God had spoken to all of us and that the time to repent was now. There were those who claimed they had heard nothing, and those who had claimed that the aliens had given them their own secret messages. And, of course, there were those who truly believed that we had been contacted for the first time by an extraterrestrial race like us, one ready to communicate, ready to lead us out of the dark. And we were wrong. We never made contact with alien life. At least, nothing comprehensible or discernible to human understanding. The stars are vast, and in their vastness our voices had touched the ears of something truly incomprehensible, something hungry and malevolent. The voice. We realized our mistake when the ground started to groan, and beneath our feet, everywhere, the ground seemed to moan. The muffled sound shook through the dust and dirt below us. No one knew what was causing it, at least not until the calls started coming in. The graveyards were screaming. All at once, the dead had started screaming. Every deceased man, woman, and child was turning in their graves. And all of the animals did so too. Every dog, every cat, everything that had ever walked this earth. The cries of ancient whales shook the seas, and the shrill shrieks of birds echoed in the forests. The caskets shook, and the morgues howled. The voices stopped together, and in an instant leaving the world in an amplified silence. And in their absence, a new sound filled the air, and the voice returned.
I hear you.
It came as a whisper from behind, an ominous yet oddly playful presence that felt so close, but was truly still so far away, and let us breathe in the silence for a minute before it made us a promise. It was a promise we all knew to be true.
I am coming.
And the voice was gone, and the air was again filled with screams. This time they were from the living. After the voice had gone, we were left to our own devices. Millions panicked, and rightfully so, as chaos took hold of the streets. Many would die in violence and gunfire of the night. They would be known as the raptured before long, and the rest of us were the condemned. We could only wait. The screaming dead was only the first of the side effects that we felt as the voice approached. And the closer it got, the more that we felt it. The first night after the screaming, we noticed the stars bleed for the first time. A section of the western sky had turned black, blacker than the night. It was only truly visible because of the ring of the stars around it. The light from those stars had turned red, and they seemed to bleed across the sky like food coloring dropping into water. Their light swirled and flowed all around the edge of some unseen mass. I knew then that I was staring into the face of the boys. Our scientists claimed that nothing was there, and that their radar and scans always came up empty. Their telescopes could see nothing but darkness in that section of space. However, the proof was right there in front of us as every night that ring of darkness got wider, and more stars bled in the sky. We watched it come. As each night passed, the black spot would widen, and more stars would distort and bleed around it. During the day, a new hell would greet us. The side effects worsened. The day always brought something new. I'm sure most of what happened will go untold and unknown. The animals started disappearing. All of them. No tracks, traces, or bodies were left behind. Pets would run away, some violently so. They all retreated, never to be seen again. The forests were left abandoned, the oceans emptied, the air was left silent. The world left seemed empty and lonely. They left like water receding from the shore, just before the tsunami breaks. And one day, about 2 weeks ago, scientists tried to talk to the voice again. They hoped, perhaps, to reason with it. They told it what had happened on our world, and asked it questions. The scientists begged, and it didn't speak. The next night, the sky lit up with streaks of fire, and it was alight for hours, blazoning with orange and red. We didn't realize the effect until the next day when the televisions turned to static, and the telephones refused to work. We had sat, watching, as all of the satellites were knocked out of their heavens. And after the reports became rumors and rumblings, sanity a thing of the past. The air chilled and weighed on us. The voice was nearly here, and everyone felt it. It rained for a week after the satellites fell. The rain was salty and mirrored with an unknown filth that turned the grass black. Maybe the satellites tracked something back in with them when they hit the sky. No one knew for sure. All we knew is that it fell from clouds black as charcoal that blotted out the sun, like liquid ash. And darkness fell upon us for days. And when the clouds went away, the skies were empty. There were no clouds, yet the sky hung low and gray. If the sun was anywhere in the sky, it never made itself known, even if it had abandoned us. Each day grew slowly darker and darker until night and day became almost the same. Some people would claim that they had seen things in the dark. Creatures with gangly limbs and crooked faces, lurking in the corner of their vision. They were tall, white creatures that looked molted or rotten through their transparent skin. Appearances would last just for a second or two before vanishing without a trace. Some believed this was the first step in the aliens' invasion. The rest of us didn't know what to think. We just knew that it was nothing that simple or benign. They must have been hallucinations. Just more madness to endure. But ultimately as harmless as anything else. As harmless as the screams of the dead, the missing animals, and the dying sky. Appearances slowly increased in duration and number. I think everyone saw them once at least, but I don't think a single person would ever guess why they were truly here. They never touched nor spoke to anyone, and they certainly never harmed anyone. Most who got good looks at them described them as mournful or sorrowful looking. Some even claimed that the creatures watched over them at night, and others even claimed that it seemed as if the creatures were sorry for them. One claimed to have even seen one prostrate upon the ground, hands clasping above its head. He said it was praying for us. Prayer was no help. The churches and places of worship that had divided us for so long failed to bring hope to any in the end. The voice let them pray and beg for a while. But just days ago, the voice ended it all. No one questioned how, for at that point, nothing that happened surprised anyone anymore. But on the final day, all books of worship burned. Every last Bible, every Quran, everything. People rushed to their centers of faith, but found no solace. The churches and temples had suffered the same fates, if not worse. The people were left abandoned by their greatest hopes. There were rumors of churches all over the world, with walls formed from the bodies of those who sought refuge. They were merged to the walls, stuck to them like flies in a trap. They died still pleading for hope, but they were beyond God's help. The rest of us had learned to stop begging. And we waited. And the final message came. From beyond the sky it fell upon us. The voice echoed, and it spoke the simple truth.
I am here.
There is a darkness beyond the horizon, the likes of which I doubt has ever been seen. It brings with it the screams of countless souls, and it moves fast. The stars are dying now, and I know they'll never be seen again. The light is dying so fast. I leave this not as a warning. No, it's far too late for that. Instead, consider this the last realization, the last humanity will ever know. For we used to wonder whether or not we were alone and lost, but never whether or not we were safe and hidden. The universe is infinite, and our understanding was significantly more finite. We should never have beckoned to the darkness. Instead, we should have clung to the light and closed our eyes every time we returned to the void. And as the final minutes approach, I hold one final truth to be certain. I now know why the skies were always so quiet. This is not meant to scare anyone. Calling it a creepy story would be a bit of an insult because it isn't one. This is an expression of gratitude towards a friend who has always been there for me. He watched over me as I was growing up, and the best friend that any kid could ever have. Even if I didn't recognize it at the time. He was always there, even though I couldn't see him. And he was always acting in my best interest, even if I couldn't understand. I'd like to take some time to share with you our story. Because if you're lucky, you might have a friend like this too. I think I should let you read this first. In May of 2010, I bought a new computer and I took my old one to the shop to have everything backed up. I had brought the new computer home and had begun restoring my files from the portable hard drive and reinstalling programs when I noticed that there was this file in the miscellaneous folder that the shop's technician had created for files with no other place. It was called Happy Birthday Baby.txt. Initially, I thought it was a message my mom had written for me that I had never read as intended. So I opened it and this is what I found. You might find this one day. I'm not great at this computer stuff, but I've watched you tinkering with this machine lately, and I think that I know how to save this so that way you'll find it. Seeing as it's time for me to go, I want to leave you this last message. I know you never met your father, but to me, he was Colonel Marcus Andrew Stratfield, as I am sure that your mother told you. He was a good man. One with the pride of a lion, the strength of a bear, and heart of pure gold. Truth is, I was almost like his son long before you were born. I was his second in command and served with him for 3 years. I watched as your mother wept when she heard the news, her belly swollen with your soon-to-be debut into the world. I stayed with her every second of every day. That was until the day that you came into the world, and then my focus shifted to you. I watched as they cleaned you and handed you to your mother. and she seemed to look right at me with a knowing eye as I stood over the both of you, almost as if she had known all along, and I would be willing to bet my last penny that she did. I've watched you grow and I remember everything, even the things that you don't. You were always such a happy baby, and you had to have inherited your father's sense of humor. When you're getting to be about 4 months old, you would do just about everything to hinder your mother's attempts at changing you, laughing all the while. You were a wild one at heart, just as you are today. Just like Marcus. When you were about 6 years old, we would play all the time. We had one game in particular where I would grab your toes and tickle your belly. And you would love it, though when your mother came in, I'd have to stop. And it always perplexed her as to why you'd abruptly start crying, and after a while she'd seem to think that you didn't like her, which is when I realized that I'd have to back away some. When you were 1 year old, you seemed to develop a sixth sense for me, and although you couldn't really see me so much as well anymore, you knew that I was there. I couldn't play with you as much as before because I knew that it would only hurt you in the long run, but I always kept guard. I knew you remembered seeing me because you had a way of testing my presence. You'd throw toys in the corner where I stood and then wait to see if I would play with them. Now, I know you won't remember this, but once you threw a bear and a rag doll at me, and because your mother was busy in the kitchen making dinner, I kept you entertained by putting on a little show. And it was nothing special. I just made them dance a little bit. You were laughing loudly, and when your mom came in to see what was so funny, but when she saw your face, she wasn't laughing. And I bet you could mention the bear and ragdoll dance even today, and the color would drain right out from her cheeks. But do me a favor and don't. I think it would be kinder to ask if you ever threw the toys in the corner. That isn't quite as bad of a memory for her as the dancing is. Do you remember your first word? I do. Love. Your mother made damned well sure you knew how much you were cherished by her. Every moment of every day, and she would always say, "Love you, baby." I remember you tugging at my heartstrings something awful once, when your mother was changing you in the bathroom this one time. You seemed to have caught my reflection in the mirror behind her, and you pointed and said love. Well, more of a wov, but your mother knew. And she laughed and she affirmed it. It was your only word for a time. But as I walked out of the reflection, you started getting restless, and I knew again that I had to be more stealthy. You were growing more and more every day now, and I couldn't afford to break my promise to your father, which is why I would have to retreat yet again. I broke the rules many times to protect you, and for that promise to your father was everything to me. I remember when you were 3 and you had mastered walking. You were a regular little scout. You could never keep still, and those little legs had opened up a whole new world for you, and you weren't shy about exploring it at all. One day when you were with your mother in the market, and a lady with a shiny purse caught your eye. You went running after her, just as any other shopper was running with her trolley in front of her, coming the other way. She didn't spot you, and because you were running after her purse, you didn't see her either. Breaking the rules wasn't allowed, but allowing you to get hurt wasn't permittable either. By the time you noticed her, it was already too late, and you fell on your bottom before you could scamper out of her way. Left without any other option, I sent the trolley flying into the other side of the freezer, and as it crashed, the woman screamed bloody murder. Man in a uniform," she had screamed. You simply giggled as the crowd gathered and your mother came running. When she found you at the scene, you were safe and sound, and you were pointing to the trolley that had smashed the freezer window. And you know what you said to her then? "Love, Mommy." I was hiding by then, embarrassed to have created such a scene, though I have to admit that I was laughing on the inside. And as you grew more and more aware, so did I. And I finally knew that I could and couldn't intervene. Doing too much would hurt the both of us, so I chose my moments carefully. You were a smart kid, just like your father. Most of the time, you knew how to handle any and every situation. If there wasn't an option, you took it, though I slipped up a few times as you were growing up. And I do think that I did well to keep an eye on you. It was just the little things to make your life a little bit easier. Things you probably won't remember. like putting your piano music sheets into your bag at night, turning off your television when you fell asleep, pulling the sheets over you in the colder nights, and sorting your drawers, setting your alarm clock, closing your window and door. You caught me doing one or two of those things a few times. I want to take the time now to apologize for scaring you. This one time, you were doing your homework and fell asleep at your desk. So I filled in all the answers for your math quiz. You made such a fuss to your mother earlier about how strict the teacher was about homework. And I knew you already knew the answers anyway. That you suspected more than ever when you woke up and found that whole half of the sheet that you left incomplete was done. You were older and had forgotten that we were friends. Things you saw in the media about ghosts scared you. And you had every right to be afraid. I just want to say that I'm sorry. I never meant to make you cry. If only I had taken a little bit of extra care, you'd have never known. I just wanted to keep you safe. As you matured, you began to take form as a little lady, and as such, you had begun to know the evil of men. Though you had your wits about you, you were always taking stupid risks, and watching over you became a little bit more of a worry for me. Gradually, I had to expose myself more and more. Most memorably, the night when that no-good boy you brought home started putting the moves on you. Your mother was at work, and he was only after one thing. And although I knew it wasn't my place to choose for you, you were still only a little baby girl, about 15 years old. And as he got on top of you and started undressing you, took his top off and began whispering those sweet nothings, and your face said it all. You were scared. And when you told him to stop and he wouldn't, and when he tried to push him off and he got angry, when he struck you and finally tried to put his hand up your skirt, all of the evil that I kept inside of me broke free at that moment, and it was something that I couldn't control. My rage had boiled over as I began to growl, the lights flickering and the TV volume rising. The doors and windows began crashing open and shut. The keys on your piano began to rattle, and with your father's roar, I yelled,
"Get out of this house, boy!"
You ran out of that room and you tried to follow. But I slammed that door in your face and I wouldn't let the handle go until your mother pulled into the driveway. I'm so sorry, kid. That whole thing traumatized you for a while. You became more frightened of me than ever. Having such an experience, I knew from then on that, in spite of how much I loved you, we could never be friends. Not after what I had done. Some nights you used to sit away late in the evening, watching for me, and I'd have to sit in the darkest corner, looking right at you, unable to reassure you that I wasn't here to cause you harm. And you used to scream at me, telling me that you hated me and to get out and to leave you alone. And just as you used to do as a toddler, you would throw things in the corner, only instead of toys for me to play with, this time it was heavy books, CD cases, anything that you could get your hands on to get me to move. You used to sit in your bed watching that corner. I always felt terrible about what I did. I'd almost broken that promise to your father. And more importantly, I had broken that promise that I had made to you. It was like that until the night that you tried to make peace with me. The night that you sat up in your bed and you said, "If you're here, I'm sorry." You were only trying to stop him. And I wanted to say something, but I couldn't. Even as you shuffled around nervously and called, "You're here, right? You can show me a sign." I wanted so badly to give you something. Anything to show you that I was there and that I had heard that, but feared that you would lose it if I did. And so I kept silent and just nodded, there in that dark corner where you couldn't see me. You have to know that I was never mad at you. You were just a little girl, and that little prick tipped me over the edge. Promise me you will never do anything like that again. Won't you? It is your 18th birthday today, which is exactly why I'm writing this to you. I want to wish you a happy birthday. I'm sure that your dad gets sick of keeping that bar stool open for me. Live a good life. Try not to forget about me. and know that you turned out great. Your father would be so proud of you. This letter is my present to you. And don't you worry about this spooky corner anymore. My final order is complete. I don't know about you, but I think this trooper deserves a drink. You sure were a handful. If you find this one day, try calling out to me. Take care, be safe, and live a happy life. Love, Lieutenant Ashley Gilchrist. P.S. If you call out my name, call me by what you used to call me as a kid. It always got me to come running. I was gobsmacked when I read this letter. Everything finally made sense. All of the things that happened when I was growing up. I'd always thought that I was seeing things until the day when my ex-boyfriend almost raped me. I'll be the first to admit that I was scared of him. Because I didn't understand what he was, why he was there, or what he was after. But now I see that I had it all wrong. A few days after reading that letter, I spoke to my mom and had a few questions for her about the spooky things that happened when I was growing up. She was very nonchalant about the whole thing until I mentioned what had happened in the market. There, she had stopped cleaning, set down her cloth, and turned to me and smiled. You always had a guardian angel watching over you, honey. I don't know if it was your father or not, but whoever it was, it had made sure that nothing bad ever really happened to you. As she turned around and began cleaning the dishes, she said, So I guess you met him then, right? Your spirit friend? Not exactly. He left something for me. I went upstairs and brought my laptop down and showed her the letter on my computer. My mother was crying by the time that she finished, and she told me all about my dad's friend. He was a kind boy. Mark brought him home to meet me once. He had a certain thing about him. That man was as loyal as the dog to your father. He had a love and respect for him that even I was intimidated by at times. When he came to our home on leave, Marcus nearly had to order him to make himself at home. And he even had to be asked to take his uniform off. He looked up to Marcus almost like a boy looks up to his father. I don't really know his background, but I remember your father telling me that he was a good drinking partner, a fine soldier, and an invaluable friend. And she took a deep breath and choked back a few of her tears before continuing on. They found that poor boy and your father all alone in a building that had been overturned by the enemy. They'd been out on recon. Your team had got separated when they came under fire. The rest of the boys on your father's team survived, but those two weren't so lucky. The way that they found them was peculiar. She swallowed heavily, looking right at me in the eye, and said, That boy was found on top of your father, riddled with bullets. He was shielding him right up until the moment he died. He could have gotten away, but he refused to leave your injured father's side. And with that, we both burst into tears. Love. That's exactly what he was. He was a guardian. I'd never had any reason to be afraid of him, and I had given anything just to tell him that I was sorry and that I loved him back. I had no right to have done all of those terrible things that I did to him in the end. I realized that he had loved my father so much that not even death could keep him from the promise that he had mentioned in the letter. When I asked what the promise was, my mother looked at me, and with tears in her eyes, she said, It was made in this very house, while they were sitting in your room. It was just, no matter what happens, promise me you'll watch over my daughter. Dear listener, at the corner of Winter and Broad, there is an abandoned house. Go into that house. The front door is closed but unlocked. Nobody lives inside. Not even homeless people would dare to stay in a place like that for more than a night. When you go in, you're going to hear whispers. Don't listen to what they say because they have more than just a way of words. They say things that your heart dreads. Things like, I can see you. I can hear your thoughts in your mind. I'm going to use your secrets to ruin your life. The longer that you stay here, the more I know. It may not seem compelling now. I mean, why listen to some cocky little disembodied voice, right? You're not afraid. No. Ignore the voices. There will be a lamp on the inside. It's always on, so you shouldn't worry about being able to see. The room inside is left precisely as it was. The table is set for a meal. There are still 6 sets of silverware, 6 dishes, and 6 crisply folded napkins situated at regular intervals about the table. The chair at the end of the table will remain askew as though someone has stood up from it as they left the room in a hurry. There are still old envelopes sitting in the fireplace waiting to be lit, addressed to the man of the house. There are still 2 tall candles plugged into their sticks, hardly used, with droplets of wax paralyzed along with their sides, the wicks blackened but still long. There is still a child's toy truck lying on its side on the elegant oriental rug, and a copy of Little Women is splayed out on the seat cushion on the armchair, folded back at the spine. Someone's reading glasses sit upside down on top of a newspaper from August 1923, and 2 broad yellow needles are tangled into the sleeve of a sweater. It's as though the people who lived here are merely absent and would be back in any minute. You might not think so if you were to enter the kitchen, which I will not advise. Still, you're not afraid, right? Disregard the voices. Disregard the state of what was once someone's home. Do not go into the kitchen. No. Take the stairs. Be careful, for the owner of the toy truck on the first floor may have left 1 or 2 of his building blocks, with one of the crimson letters A and the other a viridian letter G, sitting on one of the steps. Ascend to the top of the stairs, where you'll pass the window as you round the banister and face the hallway. Do not open the burgundy velvet curtains, even if you notice the tips of the shoes sticking out of the bottom. No, you ought to completely disregard them. Not that you're scared. There's really not much of a view anyway. The voices will continue to whisper to you with their outlandish threats, but you ought to simply proceed down the hallway. You might look through the first door on your right if so desired. It will be ajar. The room is just a small one with an unmade twin bed, a couple of bookcases, and a small desk with a typewriter on it. The beginning of a thesis on the Great War may still be sitting in the shaft. A small alarm clock that, if twisted twice, will be set to 7:30 a.m. sits on the bedside table, and all of the clothes in the closet are meticulously hung, side by side, like uniformed soldiers. There really isn't much to see. Still, it's better than if you were to open the door on your left, the one with the broad wooden letters nailed to the door reading Sam. Nor would I suggest that as you take a step or 2 down the hallway, that you will open the door on your right with its own wooden letters, these delicate and italicized reading Beth. The door across from Beth's room is the bathroom, which you might use if you absolutely couldn't repress your bladder any longer and you didn't mind doing your business as voices whisper absurdities into your ears. Just don't pull aside the shower curtain to peer into the claw-footed tub. Not that you're afraid. It's best that you just continue forward. You could glance into the last door on the left, but all you'd find there is a king-sized 4-poster and a vintage vanity mirror with some pearls strewn across the floor. Just don't look into the closet. Not that you're afraid. And neither are you afraid of opening the last door on the right. It's just better if you didn't. You wouldn't want to see what was sitting on the rocking chair on the far side of the room between an ironing board and another 4-poster. It's best that you just don't look. And still the voices will whisper to you such peculiar things. But since I know that you aren't afraid, I know you will continue on to the door at the very end of the hallway. The black one. Open this door and the whispering voices will be hushed. Through the door, you will be greeted by a wall of shadow. The voices have been silenced to make way for the deep chuckling that you will hear from in the room. However, I promise you that this is just to deter you. But I know that you will not be disheartened because you are not afraid. You will courageously step forward into the darkness without hesitation. The shaft of light from the hallway will offer you very little breadth of vision, but still you will step onto the first stair. And then the second, the third. With each progressive step, the chuckle will become more and more audible. At first, it will seem to be coming from the top of the stairs, but once you reach it, it will sound as if it's before you. Still, I know that you are without fear. You will disregard this voice as you did all of the other voices before. The owner of this chuckling voice will always sound as if he is just before you, but truthfully, he is just as ethereal as the other voices in the house. At times, the voice will be distant as if it is pacing about the room. At times, he will be so close that if it weren't for the fact that you know your own voice, you might think that you were the chuckler yourself. But still, you were not afraid. Simply ignore the voice, even as your hands grope through the darkness against the bureaus and boxes, both furniture and toys, and you will diligently proceed. At some point, your hands will find the waist of a dress form, once owned by the lady of the house. If you follow its delicate shape to the left shoulder, you may find a small chain hanging just above it. Do not pull this chain. It turns on the light. If you do so, the chuckling voice will not remain disembodied, and you don't want to meet the owner. Not that you're afraid. You must carry on through the darkness as you search for the leaden box. You will know it by its earthy metal chill on your skin. When you do, you may notice that the chuckler seems to have regressed to the far side of the room. You must open the box, for inside you shall find the key. As soon as you have it, you may leave the attic. The chuckler will rush up behind you, laughing hysterically, and you must escape the attic before you feel the hands upon you. Do not hesitate to slam the door behind you and use the latch before the doorknob to lock the chuckler inside. When you turn around, you will see that all of the doors that were closed are now open and the shoes below the curtains have disappeared. You have awoken the family and they are roused from their beds in each of the 6 rooms that you passed. You must be swift. Close each of the doors as fast as you can, including the first one that you saw, locking them as you did the attic. They will pound and kick against the wood in the doors from inside, but they cannot break through. If you accomplish this in time, you have done well. I know that you can do it because you were not afraid. Now, you have the key. The dearly departed have been locked in their rooms, and you may proceed downstairs once more. The whispering voices will have returned, but they will be even more adamant than before. They will hiss at you furiously, abandoning their threats and choosing to insult you profanely instead. But you must still ignore them. You have come so far because you were not afraid, and neither are you afraid now. When you return downstairs, you ought to go into the kitchen. There is nothing to be found there now. You have locked her upstairs in her room. On the far side, you will see a door, identical to the one through which you discovered the attic. Through it, you shall discover stairs going downward. The light switch shall be on your left, and you may turn it on because there is no chuckler in the cellar. Enter and close the door behind you. You must follow the stairs down and cross to the far side of the room. There isn't much in the cellar, some shovels, a rake, and other gardening tools mostly. The floor is even earthen, and there is a bulkhead leading out. This is your exit, but it is an old one. The door will not be easily opened. You will hear the banging continue from upstairs, but still, you are not afraid. At the far end of the basement, opposite the entrance, there is an apparently black wall, but you will find a loose brick at eye level for someone who is about 5'9". Take it out, and you should be able to pull out more afterward. When you've pulled enough of them away, you will find the hatch. The hatch may be opened with the key. However, by the time that you have found the hatch, I imagine the family will have found their way out of their rooms. But still, you're not afraid. The sounds of footsteps may sound through the house as the family comes in search of you. There are limited places that you will be, so you'd better move fast. Open the hatch with the key, and inside you will find the safe. The combination is the date of the newspaper that was in the living room upstairs. You must turn the dial, even if it becomes apparent that the family has discovered where you are. They will bang on the door to the basement, and it will only hold up for so long. Still, I know, you will not be afraid. Once you've opened the safe, you will find the briefcase. Don't bother to open the briefcase there, for the family will be on the brink of finding you. Even now, they may have broken through the door. Grab the briefcase and run to the bulkhead. Shift the locking bar to the side. Use your strength because it is likely rusted in place. Push with all of your might to get the bulkhead doors open and run out into the night. The family will likely be on your heels, but if you run with all of your strength, they will not catch you. Run out through the surrounding buildings and lose them. Find some place to hide. Whatever you do, escape them and don't lose the briefcase. Even as Beth comes forth, the wound on her chest spilling blood out through her rosy dress, you will not be afraid. Aren't you glad that you didn't open Beth's door? Even as Sam waddles forward, his collapsed rib cage forcing stomach fluid to spill out of his mouth, you will not be afraid. Aren't you glad that you passed by his door as well? Even as Mother rushes after you, the dent in her skull from the meat cleaver pulsing, you will not be afraid. Aren't you glad that you didn't enter the kitchen? Even as Grandpa rushes after you, the glass sticking out from his torso forming a scarlet line across his waist, you will not be afraid. Aren't you glad that you didn't part the curtain? Even as Uncle Jonathan comes after you, drenched in water with the slit in his throat swollen from age, you will not be afraid. Even as Papa comes after you, the bruises from the pearls and the burns from his necktie at the indent in his neck making his skin appear scaly even in the dim light, you will not be afraid. Aren't you glad you left the closet door shut? Even as Grandma comes after you, her limbs disjointed and her stomach emaciated from where she was left to starve to death, you will not be afraid. Aren't you glad that you didn't go into the last bedroom? And even as the last man who tried to attempt what you will surely succeed in accomplishing rushes after you, his eyes sunken and his hair white, his ribs visible even through his tattered rags, still laughing as if he heard the best joke in the world. Only God knows if he died of fear or madness. You will still not be afraid. This I know. You shall run until they are far behind you, and then hide and wait for an hour. Once you're sure that they are gone, you should find your way home. I know that you can accomplish this because you are not afraid. At home, you ought to open the briefcase. You will find that it also has a combination lock, but this is simply the address of the house. If you didn't think to look, you may need to return to the house the following night. I know that you would do that, though, because you are not afraid. Once you have found the address and you open the briefcase, you will find what I have sent you to look for and the reason for all of this trouble. It is the deed to the house. The city cannot demolish the house without this document. Be careful with it, as it is over 100 years old. Bring it to the city and have them demolish the house. Once and for all, my family will be able to rest. And maybe this will be adequate repentance for what I did to them all those years ago. If you do get to the city to demolish that house, my family's bodies will be interned in the rubble, finally at peace. If not, you left the front door unlocked, didn't you? God forbid someone else enter that house by chance. That doesn't have anything to do with you. And anyways, they have nothing to fear. Right.